would like to share a journey with you. A journey bearing so much significance. It became a landmark in time. We've traveled across this land not to conquer it, but to coalesce with it, at the mercy of these machines. More than just overlanders, and more than just outdoorsmen, but people defined by the unity of our fixations.
I don't think any of us are going to forget the way that we felt in this moment. A moment where 4 years of planning was finally being put into action. We were headed for Windhoek, Namibia from our home in the Western Cape, South Africa. In a modern vehicle, this trip should take you about 15 hours, but in 75-year-old Jeeps, more like 3 days. Our first night was spent on the Orange River. Here, we left the tow vehicles, linked up with the rest of our South African boys, and then crossed the Namibian border the next morning. Now that we switched over to the Jeeps and had 2 days left to get to Windhoek, it was time to pick up the pace. If you've ever traveled across Africa, you probably know it's anything but straightforward. Something's always going to go wrong. At the first petrol station we stopped at, we got our tank and jerry cans filled with diesel instead of petrol. Obviously, we didn't get very far. After towing back to the station, we had the diesel siphoned out of our tank and jerry cans and filled it with petrol. After turning over the fuel pump and clearing the fuel lines, we were able to get the motor fired back up and we were back on the move again. And morale was so high at this point, nothing was going to take that away from us. On the 18th of June, we arrived safely at our checkpoint in Windhoek, Namibia, and here our retro overland adventure would truly begin.
This Irongo Rocks is right there, and just a part like that, just that river, from the road down to the coast, can keep you busy for a week already, if you do it the way it's supposed to.
By now it's probably obvious this isn't our first rodeo, and we certainly wouldn't be here if it was. We owe this adventure to our team's collective background, as well-traveled overlanders and clear-sighted engineers. This is a culture derived from 30-plus years of dedication to the restoration and employment of an automotive legend, a timeless icon that pioneered a reputation of robustness that would be preserved for years to come. So much that it would become an honor to be sitting behind the wheel of a 1948 CJ2A release Jeep. Each of us have our own relationship with our vehicle. We each have a different journey that led us here, but what we all share is an inclination to use these vehicles as intended by their creators, to be utilized as a vessel for adventure.
I think it's very different in South Africa because it's difficult to get things in South Africa. Not a lot of companies ship here.
I mean, like these tubes. I mean, a tube is like buying underwear. It's like
you need tubes.
On the morning of the 20th, we had several odds and ends to attend to before disappearing into the bush for over 2 weeks. One of which included sourcing tubes for our tires, which happened to be a very unique size. So we're kind of crossing our fingers on this one. Since we already had a couple flat tires towing up to the border, it'd be wise to sort these tubes, just as a precaution for any potential flats. Once we came right with our tubes, we'd pick up a few last-minute supplies from an outdoor shop.
I want to break the news to you, but you're filming the ceiling.
Dave must show you his manly pants
Come look at my manliness.
that he's going to buy.
How much you pay me to wear these?
I think that's priceless.
Dennis. This is drone proof, eh? Just say.
I mean, you can't be in Vintic without doing a quick fair cook run. This is the authentic stuff. You won't find this in the supermarkets.
This one what?
For fun.
If you are taking a camera, you are supposed to pay. I see. 100.
Once we were wrapped up, we'd head back to the jeeps and we'd get ready to hit the road. We'd be traveling 240 kilometers to a spot called Erongo Rocks, and this would mark day one of the most challenging expedition any of us had undertaken with these.
This is the chef's kitchen. Lots of fancy stuff going on here. How did these apples not bruise?
Yeah, they will, I'm sure tomorrow.
Start squeezing those potatoes.
Yeah.
Flanking of the veggies, the ambient backlighting and warmth and calmness.
Says here with a great big f***ing LED light blowing on it.
Here we go, Dennis. I like to make
Romantis.
Yes, romantic, as you say. Dennis will always say whatever. Okay. That's like me, I'm like...
As long as it's not charcoal when it comes off.
You can never overspice it. The Dave Ratcliffe job. It doesn't happen.
I checked you are coming along very nicely.
The feeling of waking up here is beyond words. No doubt it was an icy morning, but that somehow makes that first cup of coffee taste even better.
I was very conscious about the fact that I might produce a snore, and I started drifting off like this. And I just caught the rhythm start. I thought, yeah, but Bobby's going to kick my ass. So we're doing this. So let's start. We're going to go.
We'd spend the next couple days working our way to the Doris meteorite crater, a landmark that's further off the beaten track. Meaning, we'd be bush camping, traveling through riverbeds and 2 tracks to get there, a defining characteristic to Africa travel, and the natural habitats of a Willys flat fender.
Remember you told me things your mama said. She never gave you enough affection. That you run around. She didn't know you're bound to feel alone and such neglection. You may feel the need to fix the past you need and show overlovingness. Feed me, pushes me further. World full of bad, I can't take much longer. Remember you told me I should watch out. You see now I will have a good intentions.
A large majority of the roads in this part of Namibia overlap with riverbeds, following the natural contours of the landscape. The conditions in these riverbeds are ever-changing throughout the year, and for this reason, they can quickly become very dangerous to those who aren't familiar with navigating them. However, if you're in a group with veteran overland drivers who are well acquainted with the terrain and their vehicles, then this is kind of your playground.
Looks like you got a hairball in your tank. A what? A hairball. What have you been doing? Fucking cats last night. It's all gone from his corp. It's gone into his fucking fuel tank.
Yeah, this is gin. Did you take it out of my Jeep?
Normally blow it back out, not in.
24 guarantee. It's 24 seconds or 24 meters.
I bet you this came out of one of his Jeeps.
matter of 500 meters, the riverbed terrain had gone from dry sand to mud. This indicated this area had recently received rain and the river had flowed. This also meant that we would need to be a little more mindful of the surface we chose to drive on. But I suppose, in the name of good showmanship, we'd see how far we could push up this muddy riverbed until we'd be forced to turn back and take a detour. Now, as you would have predicted, this resulted in the seemingly endless recovery mission to save our dear friend Dave. But what came after that is something that none of us would have predicted. We had some unexpected company show up from further upstream on foot. We learned that our new friends were German travelers. In a rental Land Cruiser, they'd managed to get stuck 2 kilometers up the Umawab riverbed. So without hesitation, we set out on the detour to the location of the stranded Land Cruiser. Now, when you think recovery team, a fleet of 75-year-old Jeeps probably isn't your first guess. And it's not like our vehicles are running any heavy performance modifications. In fact, we haven't strayed too far from the original specs. Jezebel, the 1948 CJ2A, is running a tuned Willys F-head motor, with increased compression putting out about 75 horsepower. The transmission is a standard T90 gearbox fitted with an overdrive to increase fuel economy. Differentials were upgraded to a Dana 44 axle in the rear and a late model Dana 27 in the front, fitted with freewheel hubs. Suspension is standard aside from some slight alterations to improve load capacity. On top of all that, the chassis has also been reinforced in places. All around, each Jeep has its own fine-tuned modifications derived from the innovation of its owner. Except for Klaus's Jeep. That thing is original by the books, both a blessing and a curse. Myself, I'm no expert in off-road recovery, but from what I observed, that loaded cruiser wasn't going anywhere with ease, especially weighing about 8,000 pounds. And to give some frame of reference, each of our Jeeps were weighing in at about 3,000 pounds. That being said, it would take the weight of all 4 Jeeps to recover this Land Cruiser. After some troubleshooting and planning, we detached 2 winches to the cruiser and anchor those 2 Jeeps with the other 2, giving us the most resistance. After a solid hour of assisting, we were successful in recovering the Land Cruiser, and after a quick coffee break and casual flat tire, we'd be back on the move, trying to cover as much ground as possible for the rest of that day. After gathering firewood and scouting a campsite in a nearby riverbed, we'd watch the sunset on the 3rd day of our retro Overland adventure. Northwestern Namibia, one of the last places in the world where the desert-adapted rhino, lion and elephant is free to roam. No borders, completely uncharted, and when you're here, you're in their territory. And if you're lucky, you might just encounter one. So on that note, we'd spend a few days trundling through Damariland in the hopes of spotting one of these spectacular animals. After days of constant tracking and following trails, the anticipation we felt was like nothing else, and the adrenaline kept rising at the thought of seeing something truly extraordinary. Nothing. After 3 days, nothing. Footprints? Plenty. Droppings? Abundance. Sightings? 0. I'd be lying if I said we weren't disappointed. That is, everyone except for Dave.
I'm frightening him away! Dennis! Dennis, don't leave me! There's no love here.
We'd certainly be lost without his morale. Although we still had all of 2 weeks left to spot animals, I found myself in awe of one thing. The fact that we had encountered traces of these animals near our campsite meant they were present and they were near. The fact that they had laid eyes on us, whether we were driving past or asleep, they were there. And that's just about all the assurance I need, knowing their presence and their unity with the landscape. Besides, it'd be naive to assume wildlife is all this landscape has to offer. In a world that's millions of years old, this desert holds secrets untouched by time. Here, amidst the vast expanse of sand and sky, lies a hidden treasure. Petrified wood, once towering trees, now frozen in time. These ancient relics date back to at least 50 million years. Buried in wet sediment saturated with minerals, they escaped the ravages of decay, and instead they transformed, their organic matter replaced by stone, perfectly preserved for us to discover today.
Destination at the end of our aim would be the iconic Skeleton Coast, and we'd spend 3 days traveling to get there.
Traveling through Namibia is always a pleasure, especially in our jeeps. These open vehicles erase the barriers between us and the wilderness, allowing us to connect deeply with our surroundings. You can taste the dust in the air, hear the old T90 transmission whining beneath you. It's an experience like no other, so we make it a priority to take our time, to absorb every moment, every landscape, every essence of the journey.
Rule number one with any trip is savor the stops. A coffee in the middle of nowhere you will always remember, but you won't remember the blurry past of something that you passed. So stop, let the quiet settle in and absorb the vast quietness. That's a special.
Our path led us through the village of Ongongo, where we spent a night and enjoyed our first swim of the trip at an oasis in the middle of the desert. The next day, we passed by Fort Sesfontein, a relic dating back to 1896, built by soldiers of Imperial Germany. And as is customary in this part of Namibia, we followed a riverbed through the landscape, eventually merging onto a well-traveled road, making our way to the gates of the Skeleton Coast National Park. And here, the next leg of our adventure awaited us, a continuation of our journey through one of the most breathtaking and rugged regions on Earth. The next morning we were met by an unexpected, unformidable challenge. As we approached the coast, we were met with a sandstorm. In our open jeeps, with no doors or protection, we faced the full fury of nature. This sandstorm was a wall of swirling, abrasive particles that obscured the road and even stripped the paint from Jezebel's undercarriage. These storms aren't common along the coast, but it seemed we were destined to encounter the extraordinary. This storm is a reminder of the untamed and unpredictable nature of the Skeleton Coast. Later that day, during our lunch break on the beach, Klaus had discovered a dire issue. One of the blades on the front driver's side leaf spring on his Jeep had snapped under the relentless strain of our journey. So without hesitation, Dennis stepped in with his roll of wire to mend the broken spring. So, naturally, we seized the opportunity to wash off a week's worth of dust with a nice swim in the frigid waters of the Atlantic Ocean. The Skeleton Coast, a name that conjures images of ghostly shipwrecks and desolate shores. Throughout time, countless European ships met their doom here. Stranded crews would venture inland in search of civilization, only to find an endless, unforgiving desert. In saying that, many met their fate in this landscape, adding to the sinister reputation of this coast. With Klaus's Jeep patched up, we forged ahead, only to encounter another daunting obstacle, the notorious salt flats. These salt flats, deceptively inviting, concealed a treacherous secret. Beneath the thin crust of salt lay a quagmire of gooey mud, offering no traction. So one by one, our jeeps became mired in the muck, turning the detour into a grueling recovery mission. Our spirits undaunted, we pressed on to Henty's Bay, where we restocked on supplies. Refreshed and re-energized, we set our sights on our next destination, determined to cover as much ground as possible before the sun dipped below the horizon once more. Our journey continued as we set our sights on Swakopmund. The road ahead promised new adventures and breathtaking landscapes. Our next immediate destination was the iconic mountain range of the Spitzkoppe. These towering granite peaks standing starkly against the horizon are dated to be over 120 million years old. Their presence in the otherwise flat and arid landscape is a striking incongruence, a geological marvel that commands awe and admiration. These peaks have stood the test of time, silently witnessing the flows of history. There's a humbling power in realizing how fleeting our lives are compared to the ageless stones around us. So as we sat there, enjoying a sunset beer with good company, we felt a bond with the land that was both grounding and elevating. The next morning marked a bittersweet farewell as we parted ways with Klaus. He headed back to his home in Windhoek while we pushed on towards Swakopmund. As we drove into the town, the sense of entering civilization was palpable. The comforts of cappuccinos with frothy milk and the simple pleasure of clean clothes awaited us. But our visit to Swakopmund was more than just a break from the desert's demands. We were drawn to a local museum, a trove of history and mystery. It was here, amidst artifacts and echoes of the past, that we made a remarkable discovery. No, not the Series 1 Land Rover. A rifle once belonging to Henry Martin. Knowing the legend of Henry Martin and his unique story of survival during the Second World War, this rifle was incredibly significant.
This is a rifle that has seen a huge life.
And would serve as the perfect segue into the next part of our adventure. In a world where true grit and sheer determination are rare commodities, men like Henry Martin and Herman Korn stand out as legends. These two men were not just survivors, they were testaments to human endurance and symbols of unwavering willpower. The history we uncovered here in Namibia feels like stepping into the past, watching these incredible stories come alive. Henry Martin, a German geologist, and his colleague Herman Korn faced a dire choice during the Second World War. Namibia under South African administration and war declared on Germany, they chose to escape internment by fleeing into the vast Namib Desert. For over 2 years they lived in isolation, surviving in one of the harshest environments on Earth. What makes Henry Martin and Herman Korn remarkable is not just their survival, but how they thrived in such adversity. Driven by their passion for geology, they continued their mapping work even while on the run. Their days were a relentless cycle of finding food and water, yet they found solace in their tasks. For them, the desert was not just a refuge, but a place where their mind stayed sharp and focused. Their mental resilience came from a simple principle: staying busy kept them sane. They crafted tools, hunted game, and improvised ways to make life in the desert bearable. Despite the constant threat of discovery, they managed to contribute to their field, turning their isolation into a period of intense scientific exploration. Visiting the Kuseb Canyon brought the story of Henry Martin and Herman Korn full circle for us. As we explored the very landscape where these two men found refuge during their years of hiding, we couldn't help but feel a deep connection to their story. This connection underscored the entire experience, reminding us of the unbreakable human will and the timeless bond we share with those who've shaped history through their courage and determination. It's funny how the universe has a way of timing things. Just as we were leaving the Kuseb Canyon the next morning, we faced some significant challenges of our own. A day of tribulation awaited us as we voyaged from the Kuseb Canyon to Sources Flare. Kicking off the day, we hit the ground running, or, well, more accurately, stumbling, as Jezebel wouldn't run further than 10 meters without the motor dying. Stranded in a riverbed, we set about disassembling the spark and fuel assemblies in pursuit of a diagnosis. It turned out the engine wasn't getting enough fuel as a result of a dirty fuel tank. This unforeseen setback cost us half our day, laboring under the sun to clean the fuel system and get moving again. That evening, after finally arriving at Sources Flare, Dennis discovered another critical issue during a routine inspection of his M38's undercarriage. One of the U-bolts that secured the spring to the axle had broken off clean, shifting all the stress onto the one remaining U-bolt. This situation meant his Jeep was just one anomaly away from losing the entire rear axle. So once again, Dennis had his moment to shine. With a roll of wire in hand, he lashed the spring to the axle where the U-bolt once was. This desert innovation added yet another layer of suspense to our journey, as we held our breath to see if it would hold up until we made it home. Sources Flare is the most iconic landmark in Namibia. You may have already seen its images. The vast orange dunes with the stark white clay pan, dotted with centuries-old dead trees, captured in countless photographs. This landscape, so uniquely beautiful and alien, draws filmmakers and photographers from around the globe, each eager to capture its one-of-a-kind beauty. As a filmmaker myself, having the chance to film in Sources Flare was not just an opportunity, it was a privilege. The dunes, some rising to impressive heights, and composed of sands that dates back to 5 million years, painted a breathtaking backdrop that felt almost otherworldly. Our exploration also took us to the Sesriem Canyon, another marvel of nature, sculpted over millions of years. Wandering through its deep, narrow passages, you feel a profound connection to the past, a sense of walking through the corridors of time. This visit to Sources Flare would mark the point in our adventure where we'd start heading back towards the border, and the following day we did so without haste. These landscapes, they do more than just fill your view, they transform you. Amidst the vast, open spaces where the horizon stretches endlessly, you find a sense of connection. It's in the quietness that envelops you, offering an opportunity for clarity and introspection. There's something intimately cathartic about enjoying a coffee at dawn, sitting on a rock with the sun rising over a mountain. The silence is broken only by the gentle whispers of the wind. These moments allow you to confront your primal truths. You're not just in this landscape, you're a part of it.
Travel broadens your horizons and enhances who you are, but traversing the plains of Namibia offers something more, the chance for a unique, emotional growth. This land teaches you not to listen with your ego, but with your soul. It encourages you to peel back the layers of daily life and engage with your deepest values. You're not just moving across the earth, you're moving deeper into yourself. Each step is a journey toward understanding what truly matters. And it's this understanding, this clarity, that has the power to change you. It reshapes how you see the world and how you see yourself. So as you watch a sunrise that paints the world in hues of orange and gold, let yourself feel. Let go of the constructs that bind you and embrace the catharsis of being exactly where you need to be.
As we journeyed through southern Namibia, past the majestic Fish River Canyon and through ice, a solemn energy filled the air. Our expedition was drawing to a close. 5,000 kilometers had led us to this moment. From start to finish, this trip had been a dream come true, despite the setbacks and challenges. It was the biggest journey any of us had ever undertaken with these vintage Jeeps, and it was a resounding success. We faced every challenge the universe threw at us. Diesel in the tanks, clogged fuel lines, broken springs and axles, relentless storms, and we embraced them all. Each obstacle only added to the richness of our adventure. We couldn't have asked for a better journey, with better people in a better part of the world. It's been my honor to capture and preserve this story, to bring it to you, and to cement this legacy moving forward. This film is a product of so many passions and loves, more than just my own for filmmaking. It encapsulates an unshakable love for old vintage Jeeps, intertwined with a deep affection for Namibia and all that this incredible place has to offer. While this adventure may be ending, this won't be our last journey here. There's just something about this country that inevitably draws you back every time. If I can leave you with one thought, one invitation, it's this: visit Namibia. It doesn't matter how you do it, just make it happen. Use what you have, get thrifty, but pursue the goal of expanding your horizons and the fulfillment that comes from traveling. Until the next film, it's been an honor sharing this journey with you. May your own adventures be as enriching and transformative as ours have been.